Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis, and today I am chatting with Jay Balchan, who is the American Orchid Society president. Jay is someone who I've gotten to meet several times over in Houston. I do a lot of my judging over in Houston, and I really enjoy hanging out with that orchid crew over there. Um, and Jay's an avid orchid grower, as you can see behind him. He Jay, I'll let you introduce yourself and chat a little bit about sort of your growing history in terms of orchids and what you've got behind you over your shoulder, and some of what you've been doing with the AOS.
Sure. Thanks. So I've been growing orchids for about 30 years, I guess. I was always a plant person. My dad had a big garden when I was growing up, and I had a lot of house plants. I started my professional career in New Jersey, had a bunch of house plants in the condo that I lived in up there. And when I moved down to Houston, got transferred to Houston in 1992, I bought a house that needed a lot of fixing up. And so I went to the Home Depot a fair amount, and they had these cool plants in there that were really pretty amazing that I'd never really seen before. So on my trips there, I would buy some of these things. They later turned out to be standard cymbidiums, and living in Houston, not a great combination. I also bought some just regular old Phalaenopsis from them, thinking they were wonderful tropical, like rainforest kind of plants. I would stick them out on my deck in full sun in the rain, and they lasted about, you could count on the number of fingers the amount of days that those plants lasted. So I kind of said to myself that I'm better than that, and vowed to learn a little bit more about this hobby, and kind of really got into it. There were a few commercial growers in Houston at that time, and back then we had this amazing thing called the Yellow Pages, and I looked up orchids in the Yellow Pages, and lo and behold, there were a few listings in there, and so I went to visit some of their greenhouses. And just an absolutely amazing experience. The variety of plants, the variety of flowers, it's just a really wonderful thing to kind of get into. And so one of the early people that I visited were the Wilsons. They had a wonderful hobby business here. They've passed since, but they got me active in the Houston Orchid Society. Again, probably 30 years or so ago. And I went to a couple of meetings, and there was a grower there named Bob Swearingen who always brought in specimen plants, minimum 12-inch pot size and gigantic Cattleyas and dendrobiums and things. It was just overwhelming, the amazing things that were on that show table. And so really got hooked kind of in this hobby. And then kind of throughout my time, I had all the different roles in the Houston Orchid Society, treasurers and presidents and show chairs. So I'm still the show chair. I've been doing that for 15 or so years, 20 years. We have a summer workshop, was workshop chair many, many times. So really was kind of active in organizing things. I got a call maybe a decade ago or so from Frank Smith, who called me up and said, "Hey, buddy, I think you'd be a great trustee for the American Orchid Society." So about a decade ago, I started getting involved in the American Orchid Society as a trustee. I've been IT chair for 5 years. That's now passed. But then I was vice president, and lucky enough to be voted in as president starting this past April.
Very cool. That's a lot of hats to wear. So, I kind of want to pause and talk a little bit about your IT stuff, because you had a significant hand in Orchids Plus, right? The program that we judges use and when we're doing our research for plants, and of course just regular members now have access to that database and can just look up whatever awards are sort of captured within that program. What did you do with that?
So just a little correction, the current program is Orchid Pro.
Orchid Pro, sorry. Yes.
It replaced Orchids Plus.
That's right.
Yeah, so Orchid Pro, kind of as you said, it's the system that judges use today for judging. It has all the awards. It's basically the awards database. with all the amazing pictures and award information, measurements, scores, and things that have been there basically since awards started in the 40s, I guess, when that system kind of got in place. We're looking to expand it with non-award data. That's going to be a long journey. There are about 175,000 or so registered hybrids. There's about another 30,000+ species. So you're talking somewhere above 200,000 species and hybrids combined. Awarded plants, there are about 40,000 or so awarded plants. I may have the exact numbers wrong, but it's in that magnitude. So you're talking 5 times as many more, or 4 times as many more plants that we have to get descriptions for and pictures for and information about. So to get that non-award data in the system it's gonna be a longer journey than we've had getting the award data in the system. But like you say, Orchid Pro is available to every AOS member. It's got a ton of great features. So you can, for the hybrids, you can do family trees, look things up. Any of the hybrids, you can look the parentage up, obviously, find what's in the background to be able to use that. All the incredible photographs that are done as part of the award kind of register. And that's really a lot of, it's interesting to see the hybrids over time and the species over time, how they've evolved in Steve, you're a judge, how the judging standards have really increased over the years. And what used to be an FCC 20, 30 years ago, even shorter, is now, I mean, wouldn't probably be looked at by you guys. So just to see the kind of the progression of judging over that time is a really interesting thing as well. You see all that in the system as well. So
I know that, so that's new to me, that little bit of information that you plan to expand on just on the Orchid Plus, Orchid Pro. Now, does that have anything to do with Orchid Whiz going away, or is that is there some kind of a tie-up there?
Yeah, so not really. We've been planning. So the Orchid Pro infrastructure is built to be able to handle all this extra data. And we've done that when we built the system a few years ago. And that's far ago, far before we ever knew that Orchid Whiz was going to go away. So we've kind of been planning for this. It's like I say, it's a big journey to get all these, to try to capture all these pictures, to try to capture information for the non-award side. And we've been gradually, slowly kind of gathering some of that as well. We don't have enough to kind of put that side of the system out there yet, because it doesn't make sense to advertise that when you've got an extra maybe 10 or 20,000 things and you need an extra 150,000 to make it kind of worthwhile.
Yeah.
But like you say, with Orchid Whiz going away, or them stopping production of that, it's an extra kick in the pants to try to get this side of the system going. Orchid Whiz is a great tool for research, and obviously it's got the entire data set in it to be able to look up all the non-awarded side of the orchid world, which is obviously bigger than the awarded side is. Yeah. So we're going to see where that goes. I'm hoping that we can make some good progress on getting that data in the system and pictures in the system. But it's going to be a journey for us.
And so, just to be clear, you're not sort of absorbing Alex Maximiano's Orchid Whiz.
We're going to talk with him. He's been working on his latest release 9, his kind of last release, and we've got a task force that's been put together to have that discussion with him when he's ready. It's kind of the end of September. He's not ready yet to have the discussion, but we will have that discussion with him when the time is right.
Well, that's very cool. That's good to know.
No promises, though, that we're going to ever reach any kind of agreement.
Sure,
but we'll see. We're definitely going to have this discussion.
Cool. And so I guess that kind of makes me think about being AOS president, right? So AOS is about 100 years old. So, that's, at least by American standards, that's a pretty long time for an organization to be together, which means that there's, I guess, the history of it can be kind of a double-edged sword, right? It's something to be proud of, but then it's something that can maybe slow things down as you look to the future, right? how are you able to sort of, I guess, walk that tightrope where, you kind of got one eye looking to the past and then one eye looking to the future, and what do you see going forward as some really cool opportunities that you're pursuing?
Yeah. So thanks for the pressure.
Yeah.
Um, but no, the AOS, recently we had our centennial celebration, but it happened on about our 102nd anniversary due to COVID.
Mhm.
So we're 102 or 103 years old at this point, and an amazing run for the AOS. The value in that is the history that we bring, the all the material that has been built up and presented over time. If you're an AOS member, we've had a magazine since the mid 30s. All of that information is digitized and available to you the moment you become an AOS member. You can go and search for any article. You can search for a picture. Through 1,000, almost 1,200 issues of Orchids Magazine, what used to be called the AOS Bulletin. All of our supplements are digitized. And there's just a ton of material. We used to have a publication called Lindleyanna, which is a scientific publication. That's all included in that digitization. And all of that's available to you as a member of the AOS. And so,
and I want to say that is super useful. Like,
yeah,
I mean, last week I published on this channel something about Cattleya walkeriana care and some of the habitat information, and I went straight to that database, and in addition to using what I know from experience, like using that data and looking back 10, 20 years and looking at Louise Hamilton Lima's articles and some of these other folks who've been writing for a while, it's really cool. And like you said, it's available to any of the AOS members.
yep. And just having that kind of on your iPad, you can just, if you're in the middle of something or have some free time, you can just open up an article, flip through it, super easy on the software that we have to be able to do that. So you talk about the history. So that is what some of this 100 years worth of our history brings, is that depth of information. The other thing the AOS kind of gives is it's very trusted information.
Yes.
Today, it's hard to compete with the internet, with free, but you never know what you're going to get for free. And with the AOS, we're going to put out there very trusted and trustworthy information to orchid growers. And so I would say that's another thing that we do offer. You talked about challenges. Certainly one of the things is competing with free, but I think we can do that with the quality and the accuracy of the information that we give. Another challenge is the constant change in technology. I mean, again, you look back 20, 30 years ago, you were a print magazine, and that's pretty much what you offered.
Yeah.
These days, you have to offer content kind of in many different ways. And we are very good at doing that in some ways. Again, the magazine digitized immediately that month. We've got dozens and dozens of webinars out there that are available to every member on basic topics, on very advanced topics. Like there are many judging webinars that are out there that are available to everybody once you're a member. But we don't have a great YouTube channel, for instance. We do have a very active Facebook group and Instagram group.
Yeah.
150,000 plus members on our Facebook group. But it's hard to keep up with all the channels. We don't do a lot of TikTok dance videos and whatever else might be out there.
Next year.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And if you're volunteering, I'm happy to take that. Maybe one of your kids.
I was gonna say I started the AOS Instagram page, and Candace has done a great job over the years, and
curating.
it's one of my favorite pages. Yeah, absolutely. And then the Facebook page, there's I wouldn't want to be sort of a manager of any Facebook page, and I think y'all do a pretty good job over there of keeping it orderly and good content.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's kind of a journey to kind of get there. We do the best we can with kind of trying to keep just accurate information out there and take away the sales pitches and things like that. So it's just discussions of orchids and culture and growing and how to handle certain situations and things like that.
Okay.
So
And so are there any other, I mean, obviously, pulling in a database of like you said, 200,000 plus hybrids and whatnot, and putting that into Orchid Pro, and then, and you mentioned YouTube. I know AOS doesn't currently have a YouTube channel, but it's something that maybe is in the works. But what
Yep.
other things are you kind of looking towards in the future, technology wise, or just otherwise?
So another thing, technology wise, is we recognize that we need to redo our web page, our website. Our website is fairly dated at this point, and that's an activity that we're going to start at our members meeting at the end of October. We've got a planning session that's part of that members meeting, and we're going to be starting to brainstorm ideas about how to redo the website, make information more findable, easy to consume, better content. With any large websites that you have, you end up with content that's older or that has been replaced with newer stuff, and you end up with stuff that just really isn't the best content. So we're going to be refreshing all of that and redoing our kind of our presence to the world through that. We get about 1 million people a month kind of looking at our information.
So how do you do that? I mean, is it a few people? Is it an army of people? I mean, that seems like a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of both. We're going to have a core team that's going to make recommendations about navigation and the main pages and how we move from pages to pages. But we also have content owners that own specific parts of the website. So we've got a group of judges that own their judging space.
Oh, cool.
The conservation group owns their pages. The research group owns their pages. And so we're going to have a team that's kind of the core team that will look at the overall user interface, the overall UI, a group of content owners that will be refreshing their stuff out there, a technology group, because we're going to be refreshing the whole technology stack that goes with this to make it more performant, more robust, more secure. Support group. So how can we make the website much more self-service for the content owners that own that? They can update their own content rather than having to go through like an IT team to be able to do that. So it's a traditional kind of IT approach to looking at a major technology project.
Very cool.
It's going to be a journey. It's going to take a while to get there, but within a year plus, hopefully we'll have a great new presence out there from a web page point of view.
That's great. That sounds pretty ambitious. Very cool.
Yeah.
And from looking to the future to looking behind you, literally behind you, can you tell us a little bit about your grow space, what you grow, what you've got somewhere embedded in that mass of fruits behind you?
So I built my own greenhouse. Originally, it was about 12 by 25, and I can maybe walk around a little bit, but it was originally 12 by 25. But then I inherited some plants that were too big to fit in the greenhouse, so I elected to bump it out to 25 by 25, and the front side looks like this. Let's see any of that.
That looks pretty sturdy.
So the front side is glass,
Uh-huh.
and it's cedar. The other three sides in the roof are twin wall. So it's actually quite full. I've got hanging layer. I've got a high level bench here, and I've got a lower level bench.
Oh wow!
I've also got some kind of hanging racks worth of plants here. I've got about a total of about 3,000 blooming size plants in a 500 square foot space. So not for the faint of heart. I water myself. Water. Yep. So a couple of things that I've got in bloom now. Pretty cool. So this is something I really love. This is it's S.J. Bracey, which is a big red cat, crossed with Tenebrosa.
Okay.
Tenebrosa. Everybody knows the species Tenebrosa, but it really brings out the giant purple lip here.
Yeah.
And it adds a bronze cast to the flowers, to the petals. And as I start some of my own breeding, I think this is an area that I'm going to pursue a bit. Is kind of working with Tenebrosa as one parent, crossing it on to a number of kind of big standard cats, big standard. Obviously, the reds would do something like this, but putting it onto a giant purple, putting it onto a giant yellow, that'd be kind of really interesting, I think.
So you're really going for those big sort of unifoliate style Cattleyas. Yeah.
So I grow a lot of those. Another thing I like growing are Doritis. So here is one. I don't do really well with Phalaenopsis, just straight Phalaenopsis. But Doritis for me grow a little bit more like a Cattleya. So I've got a bunch of these around. And this is just an Alba 4N. It's a very reliable bloomer. A lot of Doritis bunch up, clump, but this one just kind of stays as a single growth. But I really like it. And the flowers last, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it does really well when you take it inside.
That sort of long spike is really cool. The flowers held really high above it.
Yep. Yep.
So, sorry, real quick on the Doritis. What's your mix? I know that one can be terrestrial in the wild. Do you do something different for that guy?
No. So all of my mix is bark based, mostly either Orchiata or kiwi bark, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
I find they're outstanding. Either one is an outstanding mix to use as the main component in your mix. I also added some charcoal, a bit of sponge rock, so probably half or 2/3 would be bark, and then the other either 1/3 or half would be just a mix of sponge rock and charcoal. And I grade it based on size. And so in pots like this, which is a 6-inch pot, I would use kind of Power Plus size Orchiata bark, which is 1/2 inch or so. And it's also grade number, I think, 4 in kiwi bark. And that would be my main mix for anything that's kind of 6-inch or larger. I love clay pots also. You can kind of see, or maybe you can, the roots kind of just grabbing onto the side of the clay pots.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit harder to repot, but the plants love growing in them. And then when I need to repot something, often I will just butt another pot right up against it. And for a year or so, let the new growths grow into the new pot and then just whack it kind of a growth or so behind the old pot lip.
Yeah.
And you've instantly got 2 divisions. They're already rooted in. And it's a really nice, easy way, low stress on the plant way to get an extra division out of something.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I think, as you and I were talking before, I mentioned that I'm getting a new house at the end of October, and I'll be getting a new greenhouse. And
yes,
I am going to be coming to you when I need to shove thousands of plants into a small space, because I think you're doing something right over there.
Yeah. So a couple other little tricks. I use little hangers and little pots. So a little hanger, and I hang them on the edge.
Oh, okay. And you make those, or you buy them?
I made them.
Yeah.
You just buy the wire at Home Depot and you can bend it. Another little trick that I've done is I built a little shelf here.
Oh yeah.
That holds all the little tiny pots, and it runs the length of the space there. Cool. And something read in my president's message. These little saucers are the bottoms of yogurt cups. Just a yogurt you eat in the morning. You just kind of cut the bottom out, and this little saucer holds a little bit more moisture. Because I water everything at the same time, it just holds a little bit more moisture for those little tiny pots as compared to the 6-inch pots.
That's interesting. Allison Galloway, of course, you're vice president for the AOS. She does a similar kind of a deal under her pots, and it seems to really work for her as well.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Anything that you can do, kind of, there's all kinds of stuff around the house that you can do to have fun little tips and tricks to do with your plants, little fun things.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like another episode for another day.
Yeah. I've got a few things in here to do that with.
Cool.
another episode with. Yeah.
Well, I want to give you the rest of your Sunday back, and I want to I appreciate you taking the time out to chat, and this has been
Very
wonderful, and I look forward to these sort of endeavors that you spoke about with the AOS going forward. This is really cool stuff.
Thanks, David. I really appreciate you having me on, and let's do something again, folks, focused on culture or little fun tips or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And I'll see you in Houston next time you come in.
Definitely.